And we're joined tonight by Orit Farkash Hacohen. She's the Minister of Strategic Affairs here in the current government of Israel from the Blue and White Party, and appreciate you being with us tonight. Obviously an important day for the state, but for the region. A lot of questions for you about that, but I want to start with something that President Trump said here just a short while ago at the ceremony, or right before the ceremony in the Oval Office. He talked about 5 to 6 other countries that would be soon to follow in joining in this peace initiative. What countries are those?
The deliberation is still going on, and I wouldn't tell it on live, and I think that things are not finalized yet, and I think it's soon to tell, but it is definitely a new era, and it's a very festive day here in Israel. I want to share with the viewers that it's also a very dramatic days in Israel, because we are on the verge of a second lockup in Israel with regards to COVID-19. So at the same time, we are going through a challenging time, but today, at least today, we are having a very festive day. It is a very positive and true message of normalization, of a new era, of friends and other states who want to have normal relationship with the state of Israel. I want to tell to your viewers that what's special about these agreements, that for the first time Israel is signing agreements with countries who do not border its borders, and these are the Emirates and Bahrain, and it is talking about full collaboration in all realms of life: transportation, energy, technology, agriculture, trade, commerce, and mutual delegations and embassies. And it's like we Israelis say, it's a warm shalom, it's a warm peace agreement. So we are looking forward to that, and we are hoping other countries would join. And specifically talking about my ministry, who is dealing with a lot of boycotting of Israel and a lot of negativity towards Israel, I think it is a message of positivity, that through boycott, through ruling out the state of Israel's right to exist, you will not get anything. And we think that the right way to progress and to prosper together is through a dialogue and not through boycotting.
Perhaps leading to another question here, and it is a joyous day in Israel and appears to be fully embraced, as you mentioned, the warm peace by the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain. But our neighbors here just behind us, the Palestinians, have had the opposite approach to this emerging positive peace agreement, as we see it. The Circle of Peace, as Prime Minister Netanyahu has spoken about today. As the Minister of Strategic Affairs, and you talk about dialogue and continuing that effort, what is the strategy for the Palestinians at this point?
I think the Palestinian needs to make a choice. They need to decide whether they join the moderate countries in the region who wants to create a new era and to be part of this new world in the Middle East, or do they want to be kept isolated when, talking to terror organizations such as Hezbollah and Hamas and Iran? You can look at what's happening today as another message. It is a message of the countries who are moderate, who are against violence, who are against, duality and coexistence together, uniting and creating an alliance against the Iran leadership that spreads terror and violence in the region. And today, you see Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas, which are all terror organizations, being isolated by the more, the voices of sanity in the region. And I think that the Palestinians have a special opportunity today. I think that these agreements are also an opportunity for the Palestinian to become a platform in order to push forward their own interests in the region. And I think they should take it.
Well, on Iran, and that's obviously been a big talking point around this, is the strengthening of the alliance right now facing Iran. Positive development for Israel, strengthens Israel's hand against Iran. Are there fears? What's the discussion now and the security discussions taking place in the government towards Iran? Is there heightened fear now that they'll lash out? Are they cornered more than ever, perhaps, by this agreement, that they're more dangerous than ever, perhaps?
I think that Iran is the most dangerous entity in the Middle East, and it hasn't changed, it hasn't heightened, and it hasn't lessened. When we look at what happened in Lebanon, for example, only recently, when we look at the radical, extreme bombing of the explosion, that had just happened in Lebanon. You know, such explosions can happen in numerous villages in the south of Lebanon because of the presence of Hezbollah, which are proxies of Iran. So Iran is a big problem, is a strategic problem for the region, for all moderate countries in the region, not only for the state of Israel, and unfortunately for the whole democratic world. And in that sense, I hope that this process is another alliance against these extreme voices and pro-positivity of the region.
Do the UAE and Bahrain share those sentiments? Do they feel the way Israel does about Iran?
I think so. I'm not sure of it. I don't know how strong it is, but I do know that they represent moderate voices, voices that call for coexistence with the state of Israel, voices that call for full collaboration in all realms of life and to live together side by side. This is something that Iran totally declines. It calls for the full destruction of the state of Israel. Only a few months ago, in the middle of the COVID-19 waves, the Iranian leader tweeted calling Israel the state of the Jewish homeland of the Jewish people, called it cancerous tumor that needs to be cut off. This is not a leader, I would call it not a legitimate leader. This is the head of a terror organization. And, I think that these speeches or tweets or whatever, they have no room in our social media.
We have just over a minute left. I want to get your thoughts as a representative, high-ranking one of the Blue and White Party here. What are your thoughts about how Benjamin Netanyahu has kept the Blue and White Party at arm's length around this peace deal, that there's really no one from your party at the table embracing this? The foreign minister, for example.
I don't think it is acceptable that the foreign minister of the state of Israel did not attend the ceremony just because of his political orientation. However, we in the Blue and White, we are a special kind of public leaders. We came into this government because of the COVID-19 crisis, and we were also a very moderate effect on the annexation process. And we feel that we have contributed to this, ceremony today at the White House with our, indirect effect over what would be the foreign policy of the state of Israel. It is indeed a big achievement of Prime Minister Netanyahu, but we also gave our contribution to that.